All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone of well. Peace, blessings, salutations to the full elect that is out there pushing, laboring, believing, and listening on to this truth. All right, with heart sincerity, and may the blessing election be upon your houses. All right, the title and topic of this lesson is going to be, all right, remain humble. Okay, stay humble. All right, have humility. Okay, because the Lord is not dealing with prideful people. All right, the Lord wants the meek, the humble. All right, if you are in a prideful spirit, if you're thinking yourself to be the head honcho, whatever the case may be, all right, the Lord is not dealing with you, man. All right, point blank, period, man. All right, Scripture tells us that, man. Let's get straight into it. This is Proverbs 18:12, and it reads, "Before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty, and before honor is humility." All right. So ultimately, right, that pridefulness, right, that haughty spirit, all right, it's gonna lead to your destruction, right? It's gonna tell us, right, pride go up before destruction. Okay, and we see Babylon is a very prideful place, man. One of these sayings in Babylon is what? "I'm proud to be an American," right? That's one of their slogans, right? One of their slogans that they're known for, right? Known by. And ultimately we know what's gonna lead to the pride of this place, man. What's gonna be the latter outcome of Babylon America due to the pridefulness of this place, due to the wickedness that this place constantly pushes and promotes, man. Right? It's ultimately gonna lead to the destruction of this place by the way of what? Those missiles, right? By the way of what? Those thermonuclear ICBM missiles being shot off, from these various nations to fall upon Babylon America. All right, and also not to forget, the Lord cracking those clouds with the chariots also, man. All right, so we see how pride is going to lead to the destruction of Babylon, right? And pride also will lead you to your destruction, man. Okay, it's better to be, humble. It's better to have, that meek spirit. All right, because the scriptures tells us, right, before honor is humility, right? When we look at all the great kings, in the scriptures, all right, a common characteristic or a common trait that we see among them all is what? That they were humble, right? That they had humility, okay? And also, before I go to the next one, also the Lord is preparing us to be what? To be the next rulers, to be the next kings, all right, of the planet Earth, of the universe, man. So, in order for us to be the next rulers, we have to have that a humble spirit, man. Right? We can't be prideful, man. All right. Nobody wants to deal with a prideful person, man. Nobody wants to be friends with a prideful person, man. Right? You don't want no dealings with someone that's prideful, man. This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, the 3rd chapter, verse 18, and reads, "The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before the Lord." Right? And again, going back to, great kings that are written about in the scripture, right? They had, riches, whatever the case may have been, but you've seen that they still were humble, right? They weren't full of pride, all right? You could look at, King Solomon, all right? Richest king to ever live, okay? But he was still humble. He still had that humility spirit, all right? So we have to, tailor ourselves or be in that same spirit, I could say also, of staying humble, making sure that we're not prideful, constantly examining yourselves, man. All right, we see these other leaders of these other groups, right, that are full of pride, that is focused on a bag and so forth, and we see, the latter end of these men, right? We're seeing the route that they're heading towards, right? We're seeing the downfall of certain individuals, man, right? All stemming back from what? Their pridefulness, man, right? And we look at our apostles and elders, man. We see how humble they are. We see that they come in that humility spirit, man, right? They not out here doing what all these other leaders is doing, trying to chase a bag and doing this, that, and the third, man, right? They stay in that meek and humble spirit, man. And that is, perfect examples or perfect role models, man. To look to when it comes down to that, that humble spirit, man. When it comes down to being humble. This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, the 19th chapter, verse 24, and it reads, "He that hath small understanding and feareth the Most High, is better than one that hath much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High." Right? We've seen guys that know the breakdowns, right? That know a lot of information, all right, but yet they're so pumped up with pride, man. Right? An individual that like the scripture says, that had small understanding but fears the Most High, right? That comes in that meek and humble spirit, that's not prideful, is way better off than that individual that knows the breakdowns, that knows everything, but they're prideful as fuck, man. All right, those people that be in the I know it all kind of spirit, that that I'm head honcho, all right. Because they're so pumped and full of their own pride, man. Pride is honestly a killer, right? Pride would lead to your downfall. All right. Matter of fact, let's do a quick Google search. All right. Let's type this in, right? The negative effects of pride. Let's see what pops up. Right? Oh yeah, man. This is from the AI overview, right? It says pride, particularly excessive pride, can have several negative effects on individuals and their relationships. It can hinder personal growth, damage relationships, and even lead to isolation, right? And we go some of the bullet points, right? Hinder personal growth. They resist feedback, missed opportunities, stagnation, right? Damage relationships, it says difficulty apologizing, arrogance and self-centeredness, isolation, lack of empathy, right? And it says other negative consequences is what? Overconfidence, stress, anxiety, fragile self-esteem, destructive behavior, man. Right? Let's read that one. It says, in extreme cases, pride can lead to destructive behavior, including aggression, conflict, and prejudice, man. Right? So ultimately, being prideful will ultimately lead to your demise, man. Right? It'll destroy you, man. Right? All these bullet points that we've seen is ways that pride will destroy you, man. Okay? You're not gonna have any growth. You're gonna be ultimately, like it says right here, destructive behavior, right? Shit. Stress and anxiety, You can't take, it was one respect. You can't take feedback. Where was it? I just seen it too. Oh, resist feedback, right? You can't, someone's so prideful, you can't rebuke them, right? You're so prideful that you can't even take rebuke, right? And the scripture tells us what? Open rebuke is better than secret love, man. You got to be able to take rebuke, man, right? You got to be able to take correction, man. Because if you're overly prideful, right? If you're a prideful, that means you cannot take or accept correction, man. And that will ultimately lead to what? Your demise, your destruction, your downfall. It will put you in a very bad predicament, man. All right. Continue on. This is Romans, the 12th chapter, verse 2, and it reads, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of the Most High," right? So when we come into this truth, right, we are renewed. Okay? We put off that old man. We put on a new man, right? If in the world you was prideful, you had a problem being humble, once you come to this truth, you put those things off, man. You are renewed. You are no longer that older version of yourself that was having problems with being humble, having problems with humility, that was full of pride. You got to put that away, man. Because once you come into this truth, you get the proper understanding of these scriptures, right? You understand that pride will lead to your demise. You understand there's no benefits that comes from being prideful, man. All right? Again, the Lord is not dealing with, these overly prideful individuals, man. The Lord wants the meek, the humble, right? The lowly, You gotta come with that, that broken and contrite spirit, man. Okay? And you cannot have these things if you are overly prideful, man. This is Matthew 5:5. It reads, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Let's read that again. "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Right? It doesn't say the prideful going to inherit the earth. It says the meek are going to inherit the earth, man. Those that have that spirit of humility, those that have that spirit of humbleness, man. Those are the ones that the Lord is looking for. Those are the ones that the Lord is dealing with, man. All right? So ultimately, the plans are made, but ultimately, stay humble. All right? Have that humble, meek spirit, man. Don't be prideful. That pride will lead to your destruction. Constantly examine yourself, man. Rebuke that prideful spirit. Rebuke those prideful demons, man. But nevertheless, the point has been made. Lord willing, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to the elect of Israel. With that being said, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone Well. Peace, blessings, salutations to the elect that is out there pushing, laboring, believing, and listening on to this truth with heart sincerity. Until next time, shalom, and the ball, Kwame Sharala, shalom.